Salvete omnes. This is chapter 33, exercise A. We have to translate the following Latin sentences into English. We should pay extra special close attention to comparatives and superlatives because this chapter is all about comparison of adjectives, positive, comparative, and superlative degree. Number 1. Via longior est. So we have via, nominative singular feminine, via I feminine, so road or way. Longior. Okay, the positive is longus long. You take the stem long, and then you add ior, ior, for the masculine feminine. And then we'd add ius if it were agreeing with a neuter noun. So it'd be longius. The stem will be longior for both. Now, via is feminine, so longior, we want to use a feminine form. So that's why it's longior. Est, third person singular, present active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. It's a linking verb. It could be existential to say there is this thing. We could say the road is longer, the way is longer. Longior agrees with via, gender numbering case. Or we could say the road is, another way to translate the comparative is to use too, T-O-O. The road is too long. We could say the road is rather long. The road is quite long. So the road is longer. The road is too long. The road is quite long. There are a couple different translations for the comparative. So for number 2, iter longius est. Iter longius est. Iter, itineris, neuter. Route, journey, itinerary. So it's neuter. Iter will be nominative or accusative, singular neuter. It's going to be nominative because I already looked. There's an est. Don't have an accusative direct object if you get a linking verb est or existential est. You want a nominative subject. Longius, like longior is the masculine or feminine of comparative of longus longius is the neuter comparative of longus So this is the neuter longer as opposed to via longer, feminine longer, iter neuter longer. So the route is longer. The way is the route, the march. It's longer, it's too long, it's rather long. Has the same translation as the masculine feminine in number 1. It's just this is neuter because iter is neuter. Cool. Number 3. Pueri sunt diligentissimi. So pueri, nominative, plural, masculine, a puer, pueri, masculine boy. So the boys, that gets us the plural sunt, third person plural, present active, indicative of sum esse fui futurus. The boys are. What are they? Well, they are diligentissimi. Diligens, diligentis is the positive, diligent, careful, attentive. The comparative would be the stem, diligent, ior, diligentior. The neuter would be diligentius. The stem would be diligentior, and then the gender would be diligentioris. Now the superlative is diligentissimus. Diligentissimus, superlative. Most, very, superlative. So this is pueri sunt diligentissimi. Nominative, plural, masculine. This is our predicate nominative to agree with the subject pueri. The boys are very diligent. The boys are very attentive. They are most careful. 4. Poeta est tristissimus. So poeta, I masculine, poet. Est, third person singular, linking verb. Sum esse fui futurus, present tense, active, indicative. Tristissimus. So we have the positive, tristis, triste, sad. Oh, sad. Take the stem, trist. The comparative would be tristior. the neuter tristius, the genitive tristiores, and then the superlative is tristissimus. We have tristissimus, the masculine form, because poeta, masculine, is masculine gender. So the subject, linking verb, predicate, nominative. The poet is very sad. Oh, they must be talking about Ovid. The poet is most sad. Superlative, most or very. Or we could say saddest. The poet is the saddest. 5. O felicissime dierum. So we have an O, and that's O there. O is a tip-off that we have a vocative, direct address. We are directly addressing this superlative luckiest, felix felicis, stem felic. The comparative would be felicior felicius, genitive feliciores. The superlative is felicissimus This is the vocative. That felicissimus masculine, vocative becomes felicissime. Another tip-off is that O. O, happiest, luckiest, most fortunate, superlative. And then dierum is the genitive of dies, a masculine day, of days. Genitive, plural, masculine. O, happiest of days. O, luckiest of days. O, most fortunate of days. 6. Leges sunt justissimae. So the leges, this is from lex legis feminine, meaning law. Think of words like legislature. Sunt, third person plural, present active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. It's our linking verb are. So the laws, nominative plural, are. And here is our predicate nominative, justissimae. Now, it comes from justus which means just. It's related to justice. Fair. So the positive, justus the comparative will be justior, justius, the genitive justiores, so more just, rather fair. And the superlative, justissimae, from justissimus So superlative, nominative plural feminine to agree with the nominative plural feminine leges. The laws are very just. The laws are most fair. 7. Erat fortior quam Marcus. So erat, this is third person singular imperfect active indicative of sum esse fui futurus to be. So he, she, it was. Now placed in this rather particular place, erat as the first word typically tips us off that this is what is called existential sum. So something exists. In English, we typically say there was, if it's imperfect, there was. If it were est, we'd say there is. If it were sunt, we'd say there are. If it were erant, plural, we'd say there were. Here it's erat, meaning there was. And there was something, a thing, and that thing is going to be our nominative subject, because it's going to be the subject of erat. There was. What was? A thing. Erat fortior quam Marcus. Fortior. Now, fortior, from fortis forte, strong or brave. The positive stem is fort. And then you add ior to make the comparative. So fortior. Nominative, masculine or feminine. We could say he was or she was. We don't have a gender here or a sex. Quam Marcus. So quam, this is going to be than. T-H-A-N, than. We have a comparative. We're going to be comparing thing X to thing Y. So thing X is whatever the subject of erat is. Whatever is fortior. Quam, thing Y, Marcus. If we use quam comparing thing X to thing Y, whatever case thing X is, thing Y must be the same case. So what case is thing X? It's nominative. Must be nominative because of the subject. So nominative, thing X, quam, thing Y, nominative. Marcus, that's why it's Marcus. He or she was stronger or braver than Marcus. Quam Marcus. Now, what is the other way you could express comparison? Make sure you've watched the comparison video and read the notes on comparison. You could also use the ablative of comparison if, and only if, thing X is either nominative or accusative case. Well, we just determined that thing X is in the nominative case, so this could work. Omit quam, get rid of it, and change thing Y to the ablative case, the ablative of comparison. So we could also say erat fortior Marco, and it would mean the same thing. Awesome. So the answer to 7 is he or she was braver or stronger than Marcus. Number 8, non erat fortior Lucio. So very similar to 7. Non, negative, he or she was not braver or stronger. It's just the negative erat fortior in 7. And then Lucio. Now here we have the ablative of Lucius Luci masculine. It's the name Lucius. So this is the ablative. Why would we have an ablative with a comparative? Why? The ablative of comparison. So if thing X, comparing to thing Y, if thing X is nominative or accusative, hey, it's nominative, then thing Y could be put into the ablative showing comparison, like it is here. He or she was not braver or stronger than Lucius. And that's the answer. Now, what is the other way we could express comparison? The foolproof, very safe way, works every time way to express comparison. Why, that would be like in number 7 to use quam. So we could say non erat fortior quam, whatever case thing X is, it's nominative. Thing Y would have to be in the same case. So the nominative of Lucio is Lucius. We could also have said non erat fortior quam Lucius, and it would mean the same thing. So the answer to 8 is he or she was not stronger or braver than Lucius. 9, mons est altissimus. So mons est altissimus. Mons montis, masculine, mountain or hill. It's like a mound of dirt, mound of earth, mound of rocks. Est, third person singular, present active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. Here's our linking verb. So we have a subject mons, linking verb, and a predicate nominative, the adjective altissimus. Comes from the positive altus aon, tall or deep. And then the comparative would be altior, the neuter being altius, the genitive being altioris. And then the superlative is altissimus aon, because mons is masculine, altissimus is masculine. The mountain, the hill, is most tall, very tall, is the tallest. The mountain is the tallest, very tall, superlative degree. And then 10. Potentior est principibus. So potentior. Okay, this is the comparative of potens potentis, powerful. Really, it means able. You can see the pot in front of it, like possum. So who has ability, who has potential, who has potestas, power? Well, potens, someone who is powerful, able to use that potestas, that potential. Comparative, it's nominative, masculine or feminine. So here's our subject, here's our linking verb, singular, and then principibus. Now, principibus is from princeps, principus, masculine, prince, leading person, chieftain, person in charge, principal. It's ablative, and it's ablative plural, principibus. Why is it ablative with a comparative? Well, ablative of comparison. Well, that makes sense. So he or she is more powerful, principibus, than, if we're comparing thing X to thing Y. If thing X is in the nominative or accusative, then we may use the ablative of comparison, but thing Y in the ablative. He or she is more powerful than the chieftains, than the princes. Another way we could express this is to use the failsafe quam. You can always use quam. The ablative of comparison only works if thing X is nominative or accusative. Quam works in all cases and instances. So whatever case thing X is, you can always use quam and then put thing Y in the same case. So if thing X is nominative, potentior est quam principes. Principes. He or she is more powerful than the chieftains. Optime, very well done. You are now ready to move on to exercise B.